You cannot read minds, but you can read patterns. You can be intelligent, careful, and kind, and still trust the wrong person. Not because you are weak, not because you are foolish, but because most people are taught to listen to what people say, not to watch what they repeat. Someone can apologize with perfect words and still never change. Someone can promise loyalty and still disappear when it matters. Someone can smile warmly and still leave you feeling drained, confused, or smaller than before. And the hardest part is this. Most of the time, you already felt something was wrong. You noticed the delay, you noticed the tone. You noticed the small shift in their face. You noticed how your body became tense around them. But instead of trusting the signal, you explained it away. Reading people is not about judging them. It is not about manipulation. It is not about pretending you can see inside someone's mind. You cannot read minds, but you can read patterns. People reveal themselves in small moments long before they explain themselves in words. They reveal themselves in how they respond to pressure, in how they handle silence, in how they treat people they do not need, in how they act when they do not get what they want. This audiobook will not teach you to become suspicious of everyone. It will teach you to become clear. Clear enough to observe before reacting. Clear enough to notice behavior before believing promises. Clear enough to protect your peace without becoming cold. Because when you understand people better, you choose better. You communicate better. You stop confusing charm with character. So listen closely. Do not rush to label anyone. Just learn to observe, because the truth about people is rarely hidden. Most of the time, it is repeated. Chapter 1. Read presence before words. Before someone tells you who they are, notice how they arrive. Not their resume, not their story, not the version of themselves they carefully explain. Their presence. Presence is the first signal a person gives before language takes over. It is in the way they enter a room, sit across from you, hold their shoulders, use their voice, and place their attention. Most people miss this because they listen too fast. They hear confidence and assume stability. They hear friendliness and assume safety. They hear the right words and assume the right character. But presence gives you something words cannot always give you. A first look at someone's inner state. Not their whole truth, not their full character, just their state. That distinction matters. A person can be nervous and still honest. A person can be quiet and still confident. A person can be charming and still disconnected. So do not turn presence into a final judgment. Use it as a first clue. When reading presence, notice 3 things: body, tone, and attention. First, body. Is their posture open or closed? Are their shoulders relaxed or raised? Are they leaning into the conversation or pulling away from it? Do they seem comfortable taking up space, or do they look like they are bracing for impact? The body often shows tension before the mouth admits it. Second, tone. A steady tone does not need to be loud. It does not rush to prove itself. It carries weight because it is not fighting for control. But a forced tone feels different. It may sound overly polished, overly excited, or strangely flat. Listen for whether the voice matches the moment. Third, attention. This may be the clearest signal. A present person makes you feel like the conversation has a place to land. They let you finish your sentence. They do not keep scanning the room for someone more important. They do not check their phone while pretending to care. Their attention stays with you. That does not mean they stare. It means they are there. Imagine sitting across from someone at a coffee shop. They smile, ask how you have been, and say they are happy to see you. But their phone stays face up on the table. Their eyes keep dropping toward the screen. Their answers arrive a second too late, as if part of them is somewhere else. You do not need to accuse them. You simply notice the split. Their words are present. Their attention is not. Now imagine another person in a meeting. They are not the loudest person in the room. They do not interrupt to prove intelligence. They listen, pause, and answer with clarity. When someone disagrees, they do not collapse or attack. They stay steady. That steadiness tells you something. Again, not everything, but something. This is why presence matters. It helps you separate performance from groundedness. Performance tries to impress you quickly. Groundedness does not rush. Performance fills silence because silence feels threatening. Groundedness can sit inside a pause. Performance wants to be seen as confident. Groundedness is comfortable being clear. When you start reading presence, you stop being hypnotized by surface charisma. You no longer confuse a fast talker with a strong person. You no longer confuse a warm smile with real safety. You no longer confuse social polish with emotional maturity. You begin to ask better questions. Does this person's body match their message? Does their tone match the situation? Does their attention match their words? These questions keep you balanced. They stop you from trusting too quickly. They also stop you from judging too quickly, because the goal is not suspicion. The goal is clarity. Sometimes a person is distracted because they are overwhelmed. Sometimes they seem closed because they are shy. Sometimes their tone is tense because life has been heavy that day. So give people room to be human, but do not ignore what you notice. Presence is not proof. Presence is a signal, and signals become powerful when they repeat. So the next time you meet someone, slow down before you decide who they are. Watch the body, hear the tone, notice the attention, feel the atmosphere. Before you trust the story, read the presence. Chapter 2. Watch the eyes, but trust the pattern. The eyes are powerful, but they are not magic. Many people make the same mistake when they try to read others. They search for one perfect sign, one glance, one blink, one moment of looking away. Then they build an entire conclusion from it. That is not awareness, that is guessing. Eye contact can reveal attention, discomfort, confidence, pressure, warmth, or distance. But it cannot be understood alone. The eyes must be read through rhythm, warmth, and return. First, rhythm. Natural eye contact has movement. It does not stay locked in place like a performance. A person may look at you, look away to think, then come back. That rhythm often feels human. It gives the conversation room to breathe. But forced eye contact feels different. It can feel too steady, too polished, too controlled. A person may hold your gaze because they are confident, but they may also hold it because they know confidence creates trust. This is why you do not reward intensity too quickly. A stare is not the same as honesty. Second, warmth. The eyes should carry some connection to the emotion being expressed. When someone says they are sorry, there should be softness. When they are excited, there should be life. When they are concerned, there should be attention that feels real. But sometimes the words and the eyes do not meet. Someone may smile while their eyes stay cold. Someone may praise you while their expression feels empty. Someone may say, "I understand," while their face shows impatience. That gap matters, not because it proves they are lying, because it shows a split between presentation and feeling. Third, return. This is one of the clearest signs. Everyone looks away. Everyone gets uncomfortable. Everyone needs a moment to think. The question is not whether someone's eyes leave. The question is whether they come back. When the conversation becomes honest, do they return to connection? Or do they escape into distraction? When responsibility appears, do they stay with the moment or do they suddenly become busy? When you express something real, do they receive it? Or do they only wait for their turn to speak? Return shows willingness. A grounded person can look away and still stay emotionally present. They can pause, think, and come back with honesty. They do not need perfect eye contact to be trustworthy. They need the ability to remain connected when the conversation gets real. Think of a difficult conversation with a friend. You tell them something they did hurt you. They look down. They take a breath. For a few seconds, they do not know what to say, but they do not mock you. They do not change the subject. They do not reach for their phone. They look back and say, "I did not realize it came across that way. Tell me more." That is not perfect confidence. It is presence under discomfort. Now imagine a different person. They look directly at you while you speak, but their eyes do not soften. Their face is still. Their answer comes too quickly. Before your words even land, they are already defending themselves. That is not connection, that is control. This is why you must be careful with eye contact. Some people avoid it because they are overwhelmed. Some people use it because they are trained to look convincing. Some people look away because they are ashamed. Some people stare because they want power. One signal is never enough. Look for the pattern. Do their eyes become softer when the conversation becomes human? Do they return after discomfort? Do they look at you only when they are speaking, or also when they are listening? Do their eyes match the feeling behind their words? In a job interview, a business meeting, a first date, or a serious talk at the dinner table, eye contact can create trust. But real trust is not created by the eyes alone. It is created when the eyes, the voice, and the behavior move in the same direction. So do not worship eye contact, respect it. Study it, but do not obey it blindly. The eyes may show you a doorway into someone's state. They may show hesitation, pressure, warmth, or distance. But the truth becomes clearer only when you see the same signal repeated across moments. Rhythm shows what feels natural. Warmth shows what feels connected. Return shows what remains when comfort disappears. Watch those three things, then wait, because the eyes can begin the story. But the pattern tells you whether the story is true. Chapter 3. Listen to what they avoid saying. People do not only reveal themselves through what they say, they reveal themselves through what they keep stepping around. Avoidance is one of the quietest languages of human behavior. It does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it sounds polite. Sometimes it sounds reasonable. Sometimes it even sounds intelligent. But if you listen carefully, you can hear what someone is trying not to touch. A person may answer every question except the one that matters. They may speak for 5 minutes and still leave the truth untouched. They may explain the situation, the timing, the stress, the misunderstanding, and everyone else involved. But somehow responsibility never enters the room. That is avoidance. Not every pause is avoidance. Not every vague answer is deception. Not every uncomfortable silence means someone is hiding something. Some people need time to process. Some people struggle to explain emotion. Some people were never taught how to speak directly about what they feel. So the goal is not to punish discomfort. The goal is to notice repeated escape. There are 3 kinds of avoidance you should learn to hear. First, avoiding responsibility. This happens when someone can describe what happened, but cannot describe their role in it. They can tell you why the day was stressful, why the message came late, why the plan changed, why the mistake happened. But they never say, "I should have handled that better." They speak around ownership. You will hear a lot of passive language. "It just happened. Things got complicated. That was not my intention. You took it the wrong way." Sometimes those words may be true, but when every explanation removes them from the center of their own behavior, pay attention. A person who cannot name their part cannot easily change their pattern. Second, avoiding details. This is when the story stays cloudy. You ask a simple question, and the answer becomes strangely large. They add context you did not request. They shift timelines. They use general words instead of clear ones. They say, "I was busy," but never say with what. They say, "People were saying things," but never say who. They say, "I tried," but never explain what they actually did. Details do not need to be perfect, but honest communication usually has a shape. It has a beginning, a middle, and a point. When someone keeps the story foggy, they may not be lying, but they may be protecting themselves from clarity. And clarity is where truth begins. Third, avoiding emotional honesty. This is more subtle. Someone may answer the facts while hiding the feeling. They tell you what happened, but not what it meant to them. They give you logic, but never vulnerability. They keep the conversation safe by keeping it shallow. You ask, "Did that bother you?" They say, "It is fine." But their tone is not fine. Their body is not fine. Their behavior afterward is not fine. They may withdraw, become cold, make small comments, or act as if nothing happened while the energy between you changes. That is emotional avoidance. Again, do not attack it. Notice it. A person who cannot say what they feel may act out what they refuse to say. This is why listening is not just hearing words. Listening is hearing direction. Where does the conversation go? Where does it stop? What question creates tension? What topic gets covered in fog? What truth keeps getting delayed? Imagine asking a coworker why a project was not finished. They talk about the deadline, the software, the client, the number of emails, and how busy the week became. But they never mention the part they personally failed to complete. That tells you something. Now imagine asking a friend why they have been distant. They say, "Nothing, I have just been busy." But every time you try to understand, they laugh it off, change the topic, or make you feel dramatic for asking. That also tells you something. Not enough to accuse, enough to observe. The most important skill here is patience. Do not rush to fill the silence for them. Do not rescue them from the question too quickly. Ask clearly. Then let the answer show you what it shows you. Some people will step into honesty if you give them room. Others will keep circling the truth because directness feels too expensive. When someone avoids once, be kind. When someone avoids repeatedly, be aware. Because avoidance repeated over time becomes a pattern, and patterns reveal what words try to hide. So listen for the missing piece. Listen for the responsibility they never take. Listen for the details they never give. Listen for the feeling they never name. Not to judge them, to understand the shape of the truth. Because sometimes what a person refuses to say tells you exactly where to look. Avoidance is information. Silence is information. Vagueness is information. Chapter 4. Believe. Actions more than promises. Promises can sound beautiful, but follow-through tells the truth. Anyone can speak with sincerity when they want trust, forgiveness, or another chance. Anyone can say, "I understand." Anyone can say, "I will do better." Anyone can explain their intention in a way that sounds reasonable. But the real question is simple. What happens after the conversation ends? That is where you read people clearly. When judging actions, look at three things: follow-through, repair, and repetition. First, follow-through. Does the person do what they said they would do? If they say they will call, do they call? If they say they respect your time, do they show up prepared? If they say they care about the relationship, do they make choices that show care when it is inconvenient? Follow-through is powerful because it costs effort. Words can happen in seconds. Action takes energy. Follow-through is respect made visible. A person who follows through is not asking you to trust their speech. They are giving you evidence. Second, repair. Everyone makes mistakes. That alone does not reveal everything about someone. What matters is what they do after the mistake. Do they take ownership? Do they change the behavior? Do they become more careful with the thing they damaged? Or do they only explain, apologize, and wait for you to move on? There is a difference between regret and responsibility. Regret feels bad. Responsibility makes repair. Imagine a friend who keeps canceling plans 10 minutes before dinner, after you already cleared your evening for them. Every time they send a long message, they say they are sorry. They say life has been chaotic. They say they really value you. Once you understand, twice you give grace. But if nothing changes, the apology becomes part of the pattern, not a break from it. The words may be soft, the behavior is still clear. Third, repetition. A single good moment does not prove transformation. A single bad moment does not define a person forever. You need time. You need repeated evidence. Real change is usually quiet. It looks like someone arriving earlier without being reminded. Listening longer without becoming defensive. Correcting the same mistake before you have to mention it again. Choosing differently when the old pattern appears. That is how character becomes visible. Not through dramatic speeches, through ordinary consistency. Many people suffer because they keep trusting the version of someone that was promised instead of the version that keeps showing up. They fall in love with potential. They keep remembering the best conversation and ignoring the repeated result. But trust should not reset every time someone speaks beautifully. Trust should grow when behavior becomes aligned. This does not mean you become cold. It means you become honest with reality. You can have compassion for someone and still believe their actions. You can wish them well and still stop giving unlimited access to unchanged behavior. You can forgive without pretending the pattern disappeared. So listen to promises with grace, but measure people by what they repeat. Look for follow-through. Look for repair. Look for repetition. Because character is not revealed by what someone says when emotions are high. It is revealed by what they continue to do when the moment has passed. Promises ask for trust. Patterns earn it. Chapter 5. Watch what pressure reveals. Comfort can hide a lot. Pressure cannot. When life is easy, many people can appear calm, generous, patient, and mature. They can speak with grace when nothing challenges their ego. They can seem respectful when everything goes their way. But pressure changes the room. It removes the costume. It shows how a person behaves when they are corrected, delayed, disappointed, compared, or forced to face something they did not choose. That is why you should not only watch people in comfort, watch them under pressure. There are 4 moments that reveal a lot. First, watch how they handle disappointment. A mature person may not like hearing no. They may feel frustrated, they may need a moment, but they do not punish you for reality. They do not turn disappointment into cruelty. They do not make everyone else pay for what they feel. Disappointment is human. Punishment is a pattern. Second, watch how they respond to feedback. Feedback does not create character, it reveals it. Some people can hear correction without falling apart. They may not enjoy it, but they can stay present. They ask what needs to improve. They separate the message from their ego. Others turn every correction into a threat. They interrupt. They defend too quickly. They attack the tone instead of hearing the point. They make honesty feel dangerous. When someone cannot tolerate a small truth, they often create a large problem. Third, watch how they behave when they have to wait. Waiting reveals patience. You can see it in a long coffee shop line, traffic after work, a delayed reply, a slow waiter, or a plan that suddenly changes. Some people stay composed. Others become sharp, rude, restless, or entitled. The situation may be small, but the reaction may be loud. A person who treats minor inconvenience like personal disrespect is telling you something about their inner world. Fourth, watch how they react when someone else succeeds. This one is subtle. Not everyone who smiles is happy for you. Some people congratulate you with their mouth while their energy becomes colder. Some minimize the win. Some change the topic. Some immediately compare your success to their struggle. But a secure person can celebrate without feeling reduced. They do not need your light to become smaller so they can feel bigger. They can clap for you and still believe in their own path. That is emotional strength. Pressure is not only conflict. Pressure is delay. Pressure is correction. Pressure is comparison. Pressure is not getting what you want. And in those moments, people show you what they have practiced becoming. Imagine someone at work receiving fair feedback from a manager. The meeting ends. One person opens the document and starts fixing the problem. Another person opens a group chat and starts building a defense. Both heard the same words. Only one could carry the pressure. This is what you are looking for, not perfection. Capacity. Can this person stay respectful when frustrated? Can they stay honest when uncomfortable? Can they stay kind when they are not in control? Can they stay grounded when someone else is winning? These questions reveal more than charm ever will. Because charm is easy when life agrees with you. Character appears when life pushes back. So do not provoke people. Do not test them. Do not create pressure just to see what happens. Simply pay attention when pressure naturally appears. A hard conversation. a delayed plan, a mistake, a moment when someone else gets praised, a moment when they are not chosen. Some people become wiser under pressure. Some become cruel. Some take responsibility. Some search for someone to blame. Pressure does not ask who people want to be. It shows who they have practiced becoming. So do not only believe how someone acts when life is easy. Watch what pressure reveals. Chapter 6. Notice how they treat people. They don't need character becomes clearest when there is nothing to gain. Many people are kind when kindness helps their image. They are respectful when the person in front of them has power. They are patient when someone important is watching. They know how to be charming when charm brings reward. But watch what happens when there is no reward. Watch how they treat the waiter who gets the order wrong. Watch how they speak to the cashier moving slowly. Watch how they talk about the intern, the assistant, the driver, the janitor, the customer service worker on the phone. That is where polished behavior often disappears. A person's real standard is not only revealed by how they treat people above them, it is revealed by how they treat people who cannot help them climb. This does not mean someone must be cheerful every second. Everyone has hard days. Everyone gets tired. Everyone loses patience sometimes. But there is a difference between a bad moment and a pattern of disrespect. A bad moment is followed by awareness. A pattern is followed by excuses. When someone speaks down to people they do not need, pay attention. When they become rude the moment they feel superior, pay attention. When they treat service workers like objects instead of human beings, pay attention. That behavior is not small, it is information. Because power does not create character. Power exposes it. Give someone a little advantage, and you may see what they believe they are allowed to do. Give someone authority, status, money, beauty, or social influence, and watch whether they use it to lift others or to make others feel smaller. This matters in friendships. It matters in relationships. It matters in workplaces. A person who is kind to you because they want something from you may not be kind when the benefit disappears. A person who respects you only when they need your approval may not respect you when they feel secure. A person who treats others as disposable may one day treat you the same way when you no longer serve their need. Do not ignore how someone talks about people who are not in the room. That is another clue. If they constantly mock people behind their backs, betray private details, or turn every absent person into entertainment, listen carefully. You may feel special because they are sharing it with you. But one day, when you are absent, you may become the story. Kindness is not proven by how sweet someone is when they like you. Kindness is proven by how much humanity they still offer when there is no advantage. There are 3 things to observe here: tone, patience, and dignity. Tone shows whether someone sees others as people or obstacles. Patience shows whether they can handle inconvenience without becoming cruel. Dignity shows whether they protect the humanity of others, even when those people have no power over them. Imagine going to dinner with someone. The food arrives late. The server apologizes. The situation is inconvenient but not serious. One person stays calm, asks politely, and moves on. Another person becomes sharp, sarcastic, and loud enough for everyone at the table to feel uncomfortable. The delay did not create the disrespect, it revealed it. Now imagine a manager speaking to a new employee who made a small mistake. A grounded leader corrects clearly without humiliation. An insecure leader uses the mistake as a stage to feel superior. Both are giving feedback. Only one protects dignity. That is what you are watching for, not perfection. Basic human respect. A person who treats people well only when it benefits them is not kind. They are strategic. A person who remains decent when there is no spotlight has a deeper standard. So when you read people, watch the quiet interactions. Watch the small exchanges. Watch the moments they think do not matter. Because those moments often matter most. How they treat people they do not need tells you what lives underneath the performance, and what lives underneath eventually rises to the surface. Chapter 7. Recognize hidden insecurity. Insecurity is not always quiet. Sometimes it is loud. Sometimes it interrupts. Sometimes it brags. Sometimes it jokes at someone else's expense. Sometimes it enters every conversation trying to prove it belongs at the top. Many people imagine insecurity as shyness, silence, or fear. And yes, it can look that way. But hidden insecurity often wears a stronger costume. It may look like arrogance. It may look like control. It may look like constant competition. That is why you must learn to read not only what people show, but what they are trying to protect. A secure person does not need to win every room. They can listen without feeling erased. They can admit what they do not know. They can praise someone else without feeling smaller. They can be corrected without turning the moment into a battle. But an insecure person often treats ordinary situations like threats. If someone else gets attention, they feel replaced. If someone else succeeds, they feel exposed. If someone disagrees, they feel attacked. If they are not admired, they feel invisible. So they start performing. They speak over people. They name drop. They exaggerate their achievements. They turn conversations back to themselves. They make small comments that lower another person while pretending it was only a joke. Mockery is often insecurity trying to sound powerful. A person who feels small may try to make others feel smaller first. A person who fears being overlooked may dominate the room. A person who doubts their own worth may keep searching for proof that they are above someone else. Do not confuse this with confidence. Real confidence has room. It gives space to others. It does not panic when someone else shines. False confidence needs an audience. It needs comparison. It needs someone to be beneath it so it can feel tall. There are 3 signs to watch: exaggeration, competition, and contempt. Exaggeration is when someone keeps making themselves bigger than the moment requires. Every story becomes a performance. Every achievement becomes inflated. Every conversation becomes a chance to remind people who they are. Competition is when they cannot let others have a moment. If you share good news, they share better news. If someone tells a story, they need a stronger one. If another person is praised, they quickly shift attention back to themselves. Contempt is when insecurity becomes sharp. They roll their eyes. They dismiss people. They make jokes that are not really jokes. They act superior because equality feels unsafe to them. This does not mean you should hate insecure people. Everyone has insecurity. The question is not whether insecurity exists. The question is what a person does with it. Mature people notice insecurity and work with it. They pause, they reflect. They learn to celebrate others. They do not make their inner fear everyone else's burden. Immature people project insecurity outward. They make other people carry the discomfort they refuse to face. Imagine someone at a table where another person is being praised. A secure person smiles, asks a question, and lets the moment belong to them. An insecure person becomes quiet in a cold way, changes the subject, or makes a small comment to reduce the win. The moment may seem small, but the signal is clear. They could not let another person be celebrated without feeling threatened. When you recognize hidden insecurity, you stop taking everything personally. You understand that some criticism is not really about you. Some arrogance is not strength. Some coldness is not wisdom. Some superiority is only fear with better posture. But understanding does not mean excusing. You can have compassion without becoming someone's emotional target. You can see their insecurity and still protect your peace. So watch for the person who needs to prove too much. Watch for the person who competes when there is no contest. Watch for the person who cannot let others shine. Because real confidence does not need to announce itself. It simply stands. Chapter 8. Read respect. Through boundaries, respect becomes clear when someone does not get what they want. It is easy for people to seem respectful when you agree with them. When you say yes. When you are available. When your time, energy, attention, and emotions are easy to access. But the truth appears when you set a limit. When you say no. When you need space. When you ask for time. When you stop explaining. when you choose what is right for you instead of what is convenient for them. That is when you see whether someone respects you or only enjoys your availability. Boundaries are not walls, they are standards. They show where your energy ends and another person's responsibility begins. They show what you can give without losing yourself. They show what kind of treatment you will not normalize. A healthy person may not always like your boundary, but they will try to respect it. They may feel disappointed. They may need clarification. They may ask a sincere question, but they do not punish you for having limits. An unsafe person reacts differently. They push, they guilt, they pressure. They make you feel selfish for protecting your peace. They act wounded because you stopped giving an unlimited access. This is where many people get confused. They think discomfort means they did something wrong. But sometimes discomfort means a pattern is being interrupted. If someone benefited from your lack of boundaries, your new clarity may feel like a threat to them. That does not mean your boundary is cruel. It means your boundary is working. There are 3 reactions to watch: respect, negotiation, and punishment. Respect sounds like this: I understand, take your time. Thank you for telling me. I may be disappointed, but I respect your decision. Negotiation is not always bad. Sometimes people need to understand the boundary. They may ask what changed, what you need, or how to move forward. If the tone remains honest and calm, negotiation can be healthy. Punishment is different. Punishment tries to make you regret having a limit. It may come as silence designed to hurt you. It may come as sarcasm. It may come as emotional distance. It may come as pressure disguised as love. It may come as, after everything I have done for you, this is how you treat me. That is not respect. That is control trying to sound wounded. Imagine telling someone you cannot talk tonight because you are exhausted. A respectful person may say, okay, rest, we can talk tomorrow. A controlling person may say, wow, I guess I know where I stand, and now you are managing their reaction instead of resting. The boundary revealed the dynamic. Not because they were disappointed, because they made your self-care about their ego. This is why boundaries are powerful. They do not only protect your time, they reveal who is comfortable with your self-respect. People who value you do not need to own you. They can be close without consuming you. They can care without controlling. They can disagree without punishing. They can hear no without turning it into a war. That is emotional safety. When you read people, pay close attention to how you feel after setting a boundary. Do you feel respected, even if the conversation was uncomfortable? Or do you feel trapped, guilty, afraid, and responsible for their emotions? Your body may notice the difference quickly, but your mind may try to explain it away. Do not rush to excuse repeated pressure. A person who respects you will not need constant access to prove connection. They will not treat your limits as rejection. They will not make you smaller so they can feel secure. So test nothing, manipulate nothing. Simply live with honest standards. Then watch who respects them. Because how people handle your boundaries shows how they value you. And sometimes the clearest answer comes right after you say no. Chapter 9. Notice the difference between image and character. Image is what people want you to see. Character is what they keep living. Everyone has an image. Everyone presents some version of themselves to the world. We dress a certain way. We speak differently at work than we do at home. We try to make a good impression. That is not automatically fake. Social image is part of being human. The problem begins when the image and the character are too far apart. When someone performs kindness in public but becomes cruel in private. When they speak about integrity but avoid accountability. When they post wisdom online but create confusion in real life. When they want to be seen as loyal, honest, generous, or mature, but their repeated behavior tells another story. That gap is important. Do not judge people only by the version they advertise. Watch the version they practice. Image is often polished. Character is often ordinary. It appears in small choices, how they handle frustration, how they speak when they are not being admired, how they act when they think no one important is watching, how they respond after they have already received what they wanted. A person can look impressive and still lack depth. A person can speak beautifully and still avoid truth. A person can be admired publicly and still be exhausting privately. That is why you must learn to separate performance from consistency. There are 3 places where character becomes clearer: private behavior, inconvenient moments, and unseen choices. Private behavior shows who someone becomes when the audience disappears. Are they still respectful when they are not being praised? Are they still honest when there is no image to protect? Are they still kind when kindness will not be noticed? Inconvenient moments show what their values cost. Anyone can believe in patience until they are delayed. Anyone can believe in loyalty until loyalty requires sacrifice. Anyone can believe in honesty until honesty makes them uncomfortable. Unseen choices show what they truly practice. What do they do when they could get away with less? How do they speak about someone who trusted them? What do they protect when nobody would know if they failed? These moments are not glamorous. That is why they are useful. Image loves attention. Character survives without it. Imagine someone who is loved by everyone at work because they are funny, confident, and helpful in public. But in private, they gossip, take credit, and blame others when things go wrong. Their image is bright. Their character is costly. Now imagine someone quieter. They do not perform much. They do not try to dominate the room. But they keep promises, admit mistakes, treat people fairly, and do the right thing without needing applause. Their image may be simple. Their character is strong. Do not be hypnotized by presentation. Some people are skilled at being seen a certain way. They know the right language. They know how to appear self-aware. They know how to sound deep, generous, professional, or emotionally mature. But words about values are not the same as values. Values are what someone protects when pressure arrives. Values are what someone returns to when emotion fades. Values are what someone does when the performance is over. This does not mean you should become cynical. Not every polished person is fake. Not every private person is deep. The point is not to reverse the judgment. The point is to wait for evidence. Let time show you what image cannot. Because image can open the door, but character decides what living near that person will cost you. So watch beyond the surface. Watch the private pattern. Watch the inconvenient choice. Watch the unseen behavior. Image is what people perform. Character is what they repeat. Chapter 10. Trust patterns, not first impressions. First impressions are powerful, but they are not final. You can meet someone who feels warm, confident, funny, and safe in the beginning. You can feel a quick connection. You can enjoy the conversation. You can walk away thinking, I like this person. And maybe you are right, but maybe you are only seeing the introduction. The beginning of a person is not the whole person. First impressions can be shaped by charm, mood, beauty, confidence, timing, social skill, or the simple fact that someone is trying to be liked. That does not make the impression meaningless. It only makes it incomplete. This is why you should not ignore first impressions. But you should not worship them either. Let them start the observation. Do not let them end it. Patterns need time. They need repeated moments, different situations, easy days and hard days, agreement and disagreement, comfort and pressure, public behavior and private choices. That is where people become clearer, not all at once, slowly. A person may impress you in the first conversation, but how do they behave when the conversation is not about them? A person may seem emotionally mature at first, but how do they respond when they are wrong? A person may seem generous, but what happens when generosity costs something? A person may seem loyal, but how do they speak about people who are absent? These are the questions that protect you from being captured by the beginning. There are 3 mistakes people make with first impressions. The first mistake is trusting too fast. This happens when chemistry becomes evidence, when a good conversation becomes character, when charm becomes safety. When someone's potential becomes the reality you start investing in. The second mistake is rejecting too fast. Sometimes a person is awkward at first, but deeply sincere. Sometimes they are quiet because they are thoughtful. Sometimes they need time to feel safe. If you judge too quickly, you may miss people with real character simply because they do not perform well. The third mistake is ignoring the update. This is the most dangerous one. You saw something in the beginning, and now you want that version to stay true. So when new evidence appears, you explain it away. You protect the first impression, even after the pattern starts disagreeing with it. That is how people stay attached to an old version of the truth. To read people well, you must allow your understanding to update. If someone becomes more consistent, let that matter. If someone becomes more careless, let that matter. If someone's behavior keeps contradicting the person they introduced themselves to be, let that matter. Wisdom is not making a perfect judgment immediately. Wisdom is staying awake as more information arrives. Think of it like watching a movie. The first scene matters, but you would never judge the whole story from the first scene alone. You keep watching. You notice choices. You notice what repeats. You notice what changes when the pressure rises. People are similar. Their first scene may be beautiful, but the story is in the pattern. This does not mean you become slow, cold, or guarded with everyone. It means you stop forcing certainty before it is earned. You can enjoy someone's presence without giving them your full trust immediately. You can be open without being blind. You can be kind without being careless. That is maturity. So take your time. Watch how they handle small things. Watch how they repair. Watch how they speak when they are disappointed. Watch how they treat people they do not need. Watch how they respond to your boundaries. Watch whether their image and character move closer together or farther apart. Over time, people usually become less confusing. Their repeated choices start to form a shape, and that shape tells you what one moment never could. So do not let one smile decide the truth. Do not let one mistake define the whole person. Do not let one beautiful conversation erase repeated evidence. Read slowly, decide wisely, trust patterns. See clearly, choose wisely. Reading people is not about becoming suspicious. It is about becoming awake. It is about learning to observe without rushing, to listen without being hypnotized, to care without abandoning your own clarity. You cannot know everything about a person immediately. You cannot see every motive. You cannot predict every choice. Human beings are layered, complex, and sometimes inconsistent. But you can pay attention. That is where clarity begins. You can notice how someone enters a conversation. You can hear what they avoid naming. You can measure promises by what follows. You can observe who they become under pressure. You can watch how they treat people who cannot reward them. You can recognize insecurity without carrying it. You can see how they respond when you set a limit. You can separate the image they present from the life they practice. You can let time confirm what first impressions cannot. That is not judgment. That is wisdom. The goal is not to label people faster. The goal is to choose more clearly. Because the people around you shape your peace. They shape your energy. They shape what feels normal. They influence how safe you feel being honest, how free you feel being yourself, and how much of your life you spend explaining things that should have been respected the first time. So remember 3 things: observation, pattern, calmness. Observation means you do not react immediately. You do not fill in the blanks too quickly. You watch what is actually happening. Pattern means you stop treating repeated behavior like a mystery. One moment may be emotion. 2 moments may be coincidence. But what keeps happening is communication. Calmness means you are not desperate for someone to be who you hoped they were. You see more clearly when you stop forcing trust, forcing connection, or forcing an explanation that protects you from the truth. Calmness gives you sight. For the next 7 days, practice this quietly. Do not confront everyone. Do not analyze every detail. Just observe. Notice who leaves you peaceful and who leaves you confused. Notice who respects small limits. Notice who repairs after mistakes. Notice who celebrates others. Notice who changes when they are no longer getting what they want. Write it down if you need to, not to build a case against anyone, to build clarity within yourself. Because the truth about people is often not hidden in one dramatic moment. It is repeated in ordinary ones, so listen closely, watch gently, choose wisely, and remember this. Do not only listen to what people say. Watch how they live, how they react, and how they make you feel. That is where the truth begins.